My fiance, 31, and I, 28, have two girls aged 4 and 2. Last year I had a stillborn baby daughter. I said I never wanted to be pregnant again. It hit me really hard and I've never known pain like it. Apparently, you're super fertile after a loss and I ended up falling pregnant immediately after our loss, and I'm currently 8 months pregnant with a boy. Something my fiance really wanted. I hate being pregnant. Never enjoyed it. I hate even more how long I've been pregnant due to the back-to-back pregnancies. I'm miserable and I never want to be pregnant again. In the unlikely event the baby I'm carrying now does also die, I never want to be pregnant again. If the baby lives, I never want to be pregnant again. I honestly can't explain how much I hate being pregnant. I love babies, children, etc. Not pregnancy. My eldest two girls and this baby are all C-sections, which is tough. I gave up work to be a stay-at-home mom, but I'm looking forward to when this one starts school and I can get back to work. I hate how sick, tired, and ache I feel. I'm short-tempered with my other children. I'm fat and saggy. I poop constantly. My mental health taken a complete beating. I've been in counseling for nearly a year now and feeling better though. Anyway, my consultant offered to cut my fallopian tubes during my next C-section, making me infertile. I said yes, of course, just check with my fiance. He is very against it. I don't feel comfortable doing something permanent that affects him too without his support, but equally I'll never forgive him if I fall pregnant again. He says I'm making a decision based on anger. I've essentially been pregnant for 14 months now. Would I be the idiot if I agreed to be sterilized, taking away also his choice of having any more children, because that's what I want. Also to add, we've discussed me using the coil, but there's no birth control that's 100% effective. Not the idiot. He's being very dismissive of your feelings here. He doesn't believe you when you say you never want this again. And he clearly thinks his feelings should supersede yours when it comes to questions about how to handle your body. Tell him this isn't a passing fancy. Tell him you're in pain in a way that you never want to be in again. Tell him it's your body to do with what you want. And tell him that if he won't believe you and support you, then you both need to be talking to a marriage counselor. No idiots here. You are completely in your right to get a sterilization. I urge you to do emergency couples consoling right now. Talk about why you want to do this. Let your fiancé vent about why he doesn't want you to. Let him feel heard. Let him know what your final decision is. Then tell him, I am going to be doing the sterilization. I would love for you to be there for me and to still marry me, but if you cannot see yourself being okay with this in the end, then I think we need to call quits on our marriage. Not the idiot. It's not like you're preventing him from the one thing being pregnant does, have children. You'll have 3. Nah, mama, he's being selfish. Pregnancies can kill, both physically and mentally, and you don't need your soul being gone out of you by having a 5th child. Just make sure you tell him it's happening, no matter what, so at least it's not some hidden thing. Maybe consider doing it in front of a mediator of sorts. Someone who can help you make your stance clear, perhaps the doctor or a marriage counselor. I'm going to do my best to describe the situation. So last year I exercised some stock options and wanted to get a nice place in a small town in Northern California that if I chose not to stay at my place in the city, I could still commute to work. I found a 3-acre property and fell in love with it. It sits between an elementary school and a neighborhood. The previous owners had actually cut a path from the neighborhood to the school almost 60 years ago, and kids have used it ever since. It's about 35 yards along an elongated part of my property. I am terrified of the liability, so the first thing I did is paid to have the pavers taken up and thought that would be enough of a message to stop using it. The kids and parents still walked across the property. So I paid to put up a fence, and that's when all hell broke loose. I'm trying to see both sides, and the major complaint is that what used to take the kids 5 minutes to walk now takes them over 30 minutes because they have to walk around my property and on a busy highway. So most parents have started to drive their kids, which apparently with all the new car traffic is causing congestion on the road in front of the school. The school principal has spoken with my lawyer and says that the school never even prepared bus service to our neighborhood because the cut-through on my property has meant kids didn't need the buses. Several of the neighbors have approached me, which I am not comfortable with at all, saying they bought houses specifically in that neighborhood because it was within walking distance to school, and now it's not. I'm trying to be sympathetic here, but the bottom line to me is it's my property and I don't want to get sued if one of these kids hurts themselves while on the property. I also paid a premium to get some peace and quiet and a little bit of zen away from my high-stress job and don't need the bother of children and neighbors pounding on my door for something they were using illegally anyways. I've done my best to describe both sides, so am I the idiot? You're the idiot. You may be within your legal rights, but you are still the idiot. The bit of property has been used without issue for 60 years, with no liability claims. Your change is now inconveniencing loads of people and potentially putting kids in danger. You don't seem to have a good reason for making the change. They weren't damaging other areas of your property, littering, or causing trouble. They also weren't using it illegally. It is legal to cross private property, so long as there is no signage against it. Not the idiot. I don't understand why some people think you're wrong for trying to protect yourself here. If two of those kids got in a joking shoving match on OP's property, one of them fell over and broke his arm or cracked his head open, OP is liable. And the same parents who gave him crap about not letting their kids use his property would be there to sue OP for medical expenses, pain and suffering, etc. Screw that. We live in a society that's litigious as hell, and you're better off protecting yourself. Not the idiot. I wonder how many of the people in your neighborhood would allow something like this to happen on their property. My guess is very few. Sure, it was nice of the previous owners. But it's your property now. I have kids and I wouldn't want a bunch of kids and their parents traipsing through my yard. Also, how long did they think this was going to go on? 65 years was only because the people never moved. They had to know at some point someone else was going to buy the property. Yesterday, I took a final exam for one of my courses. This is university, by the way, and I looked up to check the clock to see how much time I had left when I noticed the guy next to me had note cards underneath his test. Moments later, he poked his friend's back, who happened to be sitting in the seat in front of them, and leaned over their shoulder to see their test. This exam was brutal, and if they happened to do well, then they could have messed up the curve for the entire class, which is only about 30 students. So I wrote a note on my test saying what was going on and asked my professor if I could go to the restroom. I gave her my test for safekeeping and pointed it out. She nodded and I went to the bathroom. I actually did have to go. When I came back, she handed me my test where she had written that she'll take care of it. She was watching them for the rest of the class and eventually caught them in the act. She confiscated their tests and took them outside. They did not return. Now some of my friends are telling me that I did the right thing because they were stupid for trying to cheat on a final in college, while some of them are saying that it was wrong of me because school is difficult. Also, cheating results in automatic failure in this class. Edit. When I said they did not return, I meant just the two guys, the professor did. I only told 4 people, none of whom are in the class or know anyone in it. 2 don't even live in my state, and I told them over text message. Not the idiot. People like that end up getting jobs they don't deserve, taking them from people that they should actually go to. They end up way in over their head, making mistakes and not knowing what to do, even on the most simple and basic crap in whatever career field. When they get a job they aren't actually qualified to do, due to inflated and fake credentials. Employers actually look at your transcripts and partially base their hiring process for entry-level jobs off of them, depending on your career field. Not the idiot. Although I don't have all the information about your course of study, the 2 other students and their situation, etc. I still think that you did the right thing. In my experience, including graduate and professional school, it's never impossible to stay afloat and to even exceed under adverse circumstances. I've done it, I've seen others do it. There is never a good reason to cheat when everyone else is prepared to take the test honestly. Not the idiot. I had a friend in college who cheated her way through. But not by actually cheating during exams. She said she had attention deficit, so while the rest of us only had an hour for an exam, she had 3 hours to take it. Now, this wouldn't be a big deal if it was multiple choice, but this was for chemistry exams where 2 extra hours is a huge difference. Anyway, when she was preparing her app for medical school, her boyfriend at the time wrote her essay for her too. She got into a great medical school. She failed out of medicine within 2 semesters. I loaned what I thought was a friend $1,500 because her dream dog became available for sale, and clearly she stated, in writing, she would pay me back a certain amount per fortnight. This hasn't happened. It's now clear she's ignoring me, they won't even open your message while I'm constantly online on Facebook, no responses on SMS, and so really the only option for me is to take it to court. Even though it's an unlosable case for me, it's still time and effort, with no guarantee of seeing the money if she's too poor to even pay back the abysmal rate we agreed on. I found her mom on Facebook and have drafted what I was planning on sending to her. And hey. You may not know me and I'm still unsure as to whether it's inappropriate for me to send this message, but your daughter, Elle, borrowed $1,500 off me to buy that dog she now has. There was a clear agreement in writing as to what has to be paid back and when, and she is not paying it back. I send messages, both on Facebook and SMS, and she ignores them. I think that's a clear sign that someone's dodging their obligations. The next step is to sue for it, which in this case for me is unlosable, but I'm just wondering whether or not to avoid the legal fees she'd be forced to pay. You could either tell her to finalize it, or you could pay me it directly and then take it up with her. Apologies if this is out of line, but $1,500 isn't something you forget about, and really this is for her benefit and not my own. Is this entirely appropriate, or is this going too far? You're the idiot. To offer a differing perspective from what seems to be the consensus, provided that you and your former friend are both over 18, then going after the parents for the money is kind of a shady move. It is true that you deserve to get your money back. It is probably true that seeing their child get taken to court will be difficult for the parents. But neither of these things justify resorting to emotional blackmail to circumvent the proper legal channels. The right way to do this is to file a lawsuit, and if the parents want to bail their kid out, then they'll offer you a settlement. Everyone's the idiot here. I read through a bunch of the comments, and what I gathered is that you gave a 30-year-old money because you knew she'd let you make love with her if you did. Sounds like a stupid mistake made by two consenting adults. Yeah, she should still pay you back, but what part of this situation makes you think contacting her parents would be appropriate? Take her to small claims if you have to, but I'll tell you right now they aren't going to empty her house like your bitter self wants. You are the idiot for including her parents. This is between you and your friend. Considering you are both adults, bringing her parents into it is unnecessary and unfair to them. She is not their responsibility. I've made the mistake of lending money to friends before, and it's a painful lesson. From then on, if someone asked to borrow money from me and I had it, I'd just give it to them with no expectations of getting paid back and insist that they don't. This cuts out a possible expectation that can drive an unnecessary wedge into the relationship. Empty her house like your bitter self wants. My wife is 37 weeks pregnant. We are the first of our family generation to have kids, so it's been a big deal and everyone is super excited. My mother doesn't have a lot of money and she has started making comments about getting the baby's room ready. I ask her to elaborate and she says for my grandson to sleep over, of course. She lives over 2 hours away, has 2 very large dogs she cannot control, and has an agriculture business in her basement that smells the entire house. I told her save your money because that's not going to happen. She thinks I'm joking at first, but when she sees I'm serious she starts freaking out. From her perspective, she has waited 30 years for a grandchild, and since my sister can't have kids, she fuels all of her excitement into us. She has a fear of driving, so her visits to us will be limited in the first place. She is taking her excitement over the top. Her friends threw her a grandma shower for fuck's sake. I told her that I will not be driving 5 to 10 hours per weekend, so he can sleep over in a place where there are untrained massive dogs. They are sweeties, but I don't want to take the chance with a 250 pounds St. Bernard and a 150 pounds Newfoundland that like to jump and an offensive smell that permeates the house. She responds saying she has thought of all that and will be taking the train, segregating the dogs, and installing a massive air purifier in the room. I still tell her no with the logic of I don't want my child being 2.5 hours away from me. I'm not comfortable with taking a baby on a train. We are trying to avoid formula, and even with the dogs being in another room and an air purifier where he would sleep, I am not comfortable with the arrangement. I told her we can visit once in a while, but not until he's a little bit older, and it's unlikely we will be sleeping over. Her home smells, is small, and very uncomfortable. My mother cries like she has just lost a child. I call my sister and ask her for help. She lives a lot closer and has a much closer relationship, and she thinks I am being unreasonable. Apparently, my mother has already gotten the room ready and has been saving up for this huge air purifier or ozone generator thing and talked through it with my sister because she knows I'm a hard idiot. No idiots here, always a fun issue. You are a new parent who wants to protect their kid and you have every right to decide where your child will go. She's excited about being a grandmother. To be honest, I think you have your head in the right place but are coming off a little harsh. Try avoiding phrases like never as it tends to make everyone dig their heels in, especially when no one has done anything wrong. When this kid is 10 those dogs will probs be dead, maybe he'll sleep over then. Not the idiot. You're a parent. Your first priorities are with the safety and comfort of your child. You feel that both will be compromised if you leave him with your mother, therefore you have every right to deny. It isn't as if you disallowed her from seeing him at all, just that visits will be supervised or in the comfort of your own home or other suitable environment. She can't have her cake and eat it too. Continue being a good parent, OP, and don't buckle down because family thinks they have a free getaway with crap that doesn't slide hard. No idiots here. You obviously have every right to raise your child in safety. I mean, I'm not a mum yet, and I know I wouldn't be comfortable being away from my baby for even 2 hours. That being said, sounds like your mum's making a real effort. Please, empathize with how hard she's working. I mean, stand your ground, but make sure your mum knows you appreciate all the effort she goes to and really love that if they ever need someone to care for your child short term, a few days for any reason, you know you have someone loving and reliable.